Hey guys, it's Zara Jamila and I'm back with a new natural dew and a new tutorial. I'm going to go into detail on how to achieve this soft, summery, peachy daytime look, and most of the products I'm featuring are from Black-owned beauty brands. I really wanted to show my support and love for Black-owned businesses. So without further ado, let's get started. First, I'm starting off with these eye and lip masks from K&C Beauty, owned by Black fashion and beauty influencer Kristen Crawley. The eye masks are actually infused with retinol, which helps with fine lines and wrinkles, and the lip mask is infused with collagen, which will help with plumping and smoothing out my lips. So I'm going to leave these on for 15 minutes, and then now I'm going to go ahead after that and remove them both. Next, I'm going to use the new Pat McGrath's Perfecting Concealers. The first one I'm using is closer to my skin tone and will cover up any blemishes. Luckily, my skin has actually been doing pretty well these days, so I could actually skip this step, but I'm going to use it anyway just for the sake of trying this concealer. And just to let you guys know, I actually did prime my face before I used the concealer. And then now I'm just blending out the concealer using a concealer brush from Sephora. Now I'm using one of my faves, which is the Fenty Beauty Hydrating Foundation, and I'm just going to use a beauty blender to apply this all over until it's blended and even. Next, I'm using the lighter shade of the new Pat McGrath concealer to highlight, and I'm just going to apply it underneath my eyes, and of course on my forehead, nose, chin, you know the drill. So now I'm going to use this little trick that I learned from Jackie Ina, and I'm going to let the lighter concealer dry for a little bit using my fan. This helps with blending and setting the concealer and also helps with creasing. And now I'm just blending the concealer out until it's even. Next, I'm using another fave, which is the Fenty Beauty setting powder, and I'm just going to set the concealer using a powder brush and applying it underneath my eyes, my nose, my forehead, chin, wherever I applied the concealer. Next, I'm excited to try this new cream bronzer from Fenty Beauty, and I'm using this Fenty Beauty brush to apply. My first reaction to the cream bronzer is that the shade is a little close to my skin tone, so it's a little bit more subtle, which is fine for daytime. Usually I would want something a little darker, but this will do. I also like the consistency of the cream finish. And now I'm going to use the cream bronzer with the concealer brush just to contour my nose a little bit. So now I'm going to use the Fenty Beauty Press Powder Bronzer and apply it on top of the cream bronzer just to bring the shade out a little bit more. If you want to go for a more dewier look, you can definitely skip this step, but I'm just going to use it just to bring the bronzer out a little bit more. Okay, next I'm using the new Pat McGrath Brightening Under Eye Powder, and I'm going to actually use this instead of baking. Sometimes baking tends to dry me out depending on what concealer I'm using, and I don't want this look to look too matte. Okay, so next I'm going to use the Fenty Beauty MVP Brow Pencil. So before I actually start to do my brows, I like to brush them out first in the direction of the hairs. And then after that, I will line the brow underneath just to get my desired shape. And then I start to line on top to define the shape on the top of the brow. Then I draw fine line strokes at the beginning of the brow. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Brows are usually the step that takes the longest in this makeup process because I try to get them to look even as possible, and that's never easy. Okay, next I'm going to use the lighter concealer from Pat McGrath, and I'm going to line the concealer underneath my brow just to clean them up. Now I'm using a concealer brush to clean up and blend in the concealer underneath. Now I'm taking another concealer brush and blending the rest of the concealer on top of the lid to use as an eyeshadow primer. And now I'm going to go in one more time with the pencil and just line the brows underneath just to make sure that they look even and perfect. So now I'm just brushing the brows through. And then I'm going to lightly set the brows with the Fenty setting powder I used to set my concealer. Now I'm just lightly brushing the setting powder off. Next I'm using the new Fenty Beauty Snap Shadow Palette in number 5 Peach. And these colors just give a cute summer daytime vibe. So first I'm using this matte golden shade called Butter Rum, and I'm going to lightly blend it underneath the brow. Next, I'm using Shoot Your Shot, which is this deep peach shade, and I'm going to blend it through on top of the Butter Rum. Now I'm going to use Churro, which is this nice golden metallic shade, and I'm going to place it all over the lid. I'm starting kind of like in the middle part of my lid and brushing the color throughout to the outer part of my lid. Now I'm using Bellini Baby, which is this nice champagne metallic color, and I'm going to place it on the inner corner of my lid. And then now, still using Bellini Baby, I'm going to take this shade and place it on the bottom part of my lash line. So after I've lined my eyes with a brown liner, I'm using the Snap Shadows in the number 4 Rose palette. And I'm taking the color Spice and blending out the liner on the top and bottom. I also use this shade to define the crease on my lids. Okay, next I'm using another new Fenty Beauty product, which is the cream blush. This blush looks pretty pigmented, so a little goes a long way. I want my cheeks to look flush for this look, so I went for a brighter shade than I usually use. And I'm using the same Fenty Beauty brush that I used for the cream bronzer, and I'm just placing the blush on the apples of my cheeks and a little along my cheekbone. Next, I'm using the Juvia's Place Saharan Blush and Highlight Palette. I'm going to start with the shade Lena to layer on top of the cream blush. Now I'm using the highlight shade Zoba, which is this pretty pink rose golden shade, and I'm just going to place it right on top of the cheekbone, above where we placed the blush. And now I'm going to just lightly brush it on the temples of my forehead, my nose, Cupid's bow, all that. Now I'm going to layer the highlight with the Danessa Myricks highlighter. This highlighter is very intense, so a very little goes a long way. And so I'm just going to lightly dab the highlight on top just to give it a little bit more glow. Now I'm going to just lightly set everything with a setting spray. Okay, now for the lips. I'm going to scrub the foundation off my lips. Some like to leave it. And I'm going to use the Fenty Beauty Scrub and Lip Balm to moisturize and prep my lips. So the scrub is a little rough, so I'm going to use just a little bit. I'm going to take my finger and rub the scrub in. Next, I'm using the ColourPop x Makeup Shayla Lip Liner in BFF4 and the liquid lipstick in Speed Up. So ColourPop isn't a Black-owned beauty brand, but the products I'm using, the liner and the liquid lipstick, are from a Black beauty influencer collab, so I say it counts. Now I'm going back in with the BFF4 liner just to blend everything out. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to top off the lips with the Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb in Diamond Milk, and I'm going to apply it how they do it in the fashion shows and lightly apply it with my finger so it doesn't wipe off the lipstick too much. And that's it. I really wanted to take the time out to really highlight my favorite Black-owned beauty brands. And I'm also looking to try other Black beauty brands I haven't used yet. So if you guys know of any I should try, please comment and let me know. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy and also taking the time out to take care of themselves during these uncertain times. And if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching.